Okay. Tell me about Juanita calling.
Juanita called Sunday night at 9 o'clock here. Of course, she's on Pacific time, so that didn't seem late to her. She was wanting to talk about the beginning to talk with some family. She talked about her mother had died 7 years ago, how one time she was back here when they were having some hard times, and Juanita needed shoes, and Honey took her to shop for her mother a pair of brown and white ox boots, and she remembered that. Then
Tell us the Juanita. What's the
Oh,
connection there?
Juanita is my cousin, Wilma and Betty, and my mother, and Juanita's mother and Wilma were sisters. And that Wilma
Yes, Aunt Wilma was the oldest.
yes, that Wilma and Lloyd and Honey. Then there was a few years, and then about 6 years. Those three were close together. Then it was about 6 years, and then there was Wilma and Opal. I mean, Una and Opal and Harry. Harry was the baby. And Mother said she pretty well took care of him all the time when he was little. He was her baby.
What difference is there between them and you?
I don't remember exactly. Maybe 10 years, probably 10 years. About 10 years.
Okay, Juanita asked about the player piano.
Yeah, I really want to know what happened to Mother's player piano. I told her I had it at my house. I got it for my 16th birthday, and then Honey was going to sell it. And I said, no, 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 that was mine. I got that for my 16th birthday. But we moved it out here, and it was in the bedroom for a long time. And then when we had to do some work on the house, Mary Jane, I told her Jane, they always wanted to move it and wanted it. Now was the time that I needed it out of the way. So she took it to her house and kept it while she remodeled. Then Tony took it to his house at Raytown. Juanita had a lot of good memories about that player piano when she was a kid.
You mean what I?
You remember anything about it belonging to Grandpa Woods?
Yes, I do.
Well, maybe you could tell that.
What about it?
And
Well, goodness, it was a long time ago, but
get over there in front of that.
uh, he always had this, and always was talking with somebody about it. And of course, some of this stuff, most of it though, was his. That now down here in this, it's, we can't get it out of there. But anyway, that's part of it.
Do you have any memories of?
Huh?
Do you have any memories of the peppermint he used to keep in it all the time? The candy?
Well, there's some older books here.
Yeah. I thought you would remember when you'd go down to see Grandma and Grandpa, and you said he always had candy hid in there for you.
Yeah. What the heck is this?
Oh, there's no telling.
I don't know. Let's read them a looking. United Methodist Church. I don't know what it's doing there.
Let me see. Let me have it.
Hmm?
Pearson and these are cylinders.
They've got stuff in them.
Yeah, I know they have. These are cylinders from the old Edison gold molded records, echo all over the world. And there's 3 different cylinders that have.
Okay, hold that up there and I'll show you when I got a good picture of it. Right there. Okay, now turn it around and see the other side of it too. Okay. Did somebody have the player that went with that?
These came from Mr. and Mrs. Wade when they had to break up housekeeping. The Wades that lived south of the Church of Christ in Granby. And it came from their house. We helped them clean up, and the things they didn't want we brought to our house. And this is some of the things that they didn't want any longer. Harold and I have been married 57 years, and this has been in the family as long as I can remember. It's just a
Look at the name
little
on that.
picture with a top. And this is a book from Russell Scholes. Has his name in it like it's a McGuffey's 5th reader. And Russell Scholes was my dad's aunt's husband. He served in the war, Spanish-American War then. So this book goes back a time. I don't know if I can find the copyright, 1879.
Mm. And the whole secretary is just full of books like that.
Right. Then there are lots of books that belong to the Brown family,
Yeah.
neighbors.
A lot of these is where they come from.
That's much older than I could ever know. He was a circuit rider.
Is that Gabe?
That's Gabe Brown. He was the father of, I think he's buried over here at the corner in the Brown Cemetery. And he was the father of the whole group of Browns that we knew. He was a man of his own making. He had everything every animal told when he told them something, they did it. He had that he fed, but he would tell them, you stand back. And then he would take his buckets of slop, pour it in the troughs, and step back, and he'd say, now you can eat. And they'd come up and eat.
Well, that's how he did the boys, too, sometimes.
Yes, yes, the boys would do
Yeah.
things that he didn't like, and he'd get them up in the middle of the night and make them go out and do things, chores around the farm. If they hadn't behaved that day, that was the way they did. He also was a gentleman who, when they were surveying the area, he'd go out at night and move their survey stakes. So
There's another gentleman like that.
I rode a horse a lot.
Yeah, he was a circuit riding
Yeah.
of a primitive Baptist, I believe is what they were.
Oh.
And, but we have Grandpa's songbooks, Grandpa Woods, JT. We have his songbooks down here. He taught singing schools.
I don't know if this will come down or not.
And if you get it down, you can't get it back.
Huh?
But I doubt you can get it back if you get
Oh.
it down. But it has the little pigeonholes for
Oh.
all the things. I might be able to. I don't know. Nope.
What about the lamp there on top of it?
The lamp on top came from Harold's mother's, and I think it came from her mother.
I've never seen a globe quite like that, and it's not perfectly shaped either.
No, and it has animals. There's owls
Oh.
etched into the glass. Barely can tell it.
Oh, yeah, I
But
didn't see that.
There are. It's the globe is etched with different animals and what have you. Harold's Grandpa Marion was a big strawberry raiser, or Grandpa Wood was a big strawberry raiser, and there was a place where they shipped out at Aroma, and this is his stamp that they would put on his box.
I had it there a second ago. Okay, hold it right there. I'll see if I can close. Yeah. Okay.
This is the stamp that they used to put on his box for shipping his strawberries. Had quite a field of strawberries. And Grandma Woods cooked meals for the strawberry pickers. She fed them 3 meals a day. She baked 6 loaves of bread a day on the old wood stove. And, well, that's not old. That's just full of junk. And I had a lady out at Granby tell me that she made strawberry shortcake in dish pans, the old granite dish pans about this big around, to feed them twice a day. She also made biscuits for them in the morning, but she fed them 3 meals a day, and they stayed around there. Slept in the barns.
You didn't have that when you was in school.
No, this belonged to our kids. They've just been poked in there. It doesn't mean anything.
Aroma was a big shipping.
Aroma was a big shipping. It was on the Missouri North Arkansas line that went through here. It's no longer in action. It hasn't been for, well, probably 50 years.
It's been longer than I can remember.
It ran across the land that they rented in later years. Harold and his folks.
And they'd ship out boxcars of strawberries?
Yes, oh, there was boxcars. I have pictures, at least one picture, of the wagons and the people at the depot with their, waiting for the train, and they were loading out the strawberries that they shipped.
You happen to know where that picture is?
Yes, I do.
Well, we went looking for the picture of up by the strawberry fields, but we found another one instead. So tell us what this is.
This is up at on Highway 86, where E comes out of Granby and H goes south. The 4 corners there. The Schultz family put up the hay every year, and they camped out up there. They did not go home. They all stayed up there. Erdy Wood's first wife, Ruth, was the cook, along with some helpers, and it was her family that put up the hay. And
I think a lot of times they didn't move.
No, they stayed there. They camped out there until they got all the hay put up, because it was such a slow process with all the horses and everything, and the teams they had to use. So the men were fed and stayed there till the haying was done. The Schultz family built the house where Patricia Dave now lives.
Okay.
And Mr. Schultz had each of the children to stay at home and work until they were 20. And when they were 20, it was time for them to move out. They had to go out and do their own thing then. But they worked for him until they reached that age. This was Honey's lamp. She had always sat in the room wherever her bed was. She had bedrooms built onto the house and this and that, but this was always in her bedroom, this pink lamp. This clock, can you move it?
No, let's see. I've got a glare on it there. Turn it back. There, it's good.
This clock was given to Erdy Wood and Ruth Schultz when they got married. And it was a used clock at that time. But Harold's
you have any idea what year they were married?
Well, Grandma and Grandpa were married in 19... Well, Paul was married in 1918. And there was a year in there, so that'd be 17, and 6 years before that, about 1911.
So it was a used clock in 1911.
It was a used clock in 1911. But Harold's grandmother always kept it. Ruth died after they'd been married 6 years. She had an appendectomy at home and did not survive. And then Harold's dad married May Marion after that, and Grandma and Grandpa Woods, JT and Matt, had this clock, and they kept it until they quit keeping house. Grandpa passed away, and Grandma, and it always sat on the secretary when they had it. And if it got to where it was not working real good, Grandma would take a chicken feather and kerosene and doctor up the inside. The springs and all the works in there. And it'd be ready to go again. It had the key is still in here. It winds it. And the only reason I don't have it running, I forget to wind it, and I get tired of hearing it strike. It bothers me.
Is the wooden of the pump anything?
The wooden painting of the pump is one Cindy, Jean's wife, painted for me one time when I kept the girls while she took some painting lessons. So she painted that for me.
Yeah, it looks like right over here we've got a mirror made out of something to do with horses.
These are the horse hames. A friend of ours made this mirror for us. The horse hames that Harold's dad and granddad used when they were farming with horses. And they were hanging in the barn, and this friend of ours, Clyde Brock, said if we'd let him have those hames, he'd bring them back in a different form. Well, he brought it back as this mirror.
That's neat.
For us.
And they farmed with horses just over about a mile from here? Is that the farm they used them on?
Yes, yes. They would get up, well, the land was, they didn't live here, up here then, about a mile away. They lived south about 2 miles, but they would get up in the morning and come up and farm this land on the prairie and drive the team. There are also some pictures of Harold's mother when she got in the family. She came up and drove the team too before Harold was born and helped with the farming. The things on top of the stove, well, the stove was put in here in 1965. We had it put in. And the things on top of the stove are mostly old irons. This iron, Harold's grandfather Marion made for his wife Mary Caroline when they were married. My, took muscle. This is an iron that belonged to his grandmother Wood, and the stand that the iron went on. You took that off the stove and it was hot. You didn't want to set that on your ironing board. The next one, this was my grandmother Vance, Lizzie Jane Vance. This was my grandmother Hatcher's. Mary Susan Hatcher was her iron. And the stand that it sits on. This iron is one that I used. The handle lifts off. This is one I used when I was in high school to press my clothes every morning before I went to school. We had electricity and Mother had an electric iron, but she wouldn't let me use it. She thought it was too expensive. So we heated this on the kerosene stove, and that's what I pressed my clothes with every morning before I went to school.
I believe I've heard you tell you were a bit of a priss.
No. Mother used to get so mad at me because I wore well, not mad at me because I wore brown and white Oxfords, but I polished the Oxfords every night. I took the white shoestrings out and washed them every night so they'd be clean and white of a morning when I got ready to go to school after I pressed my dress with that iron. And this is an old iron. I can't read what it says, but it had a deal that went down over it and hooked in to the sides to the whole metal frame and a handle that hooked into that one. And this one is a child's iron, much like the other old irons. It looks like the handle had been broken off, but it was a child's play iron.
The kettle?
The kettle, it doesn't have any history.
Oh.
I just bought it one time.
This looks good on there.
It just fitted there and it made, what is it?
Yeah, I see some tools there.
This is a wheelwright. You need to leave it on the wall? Or?
No, that's right. Just hold it in front of the wall.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
That you rolled around a wooden wheel. Once the buggy or wagon wheel was made, this you rolled around to see how much iron you needed to put on that. It was an instrument of measuring for the iron that goes on the wagon wheel. These are shaving spokes.
For shaving what?
For making the wooden spokes that went on, that made up the wagon wheel. There's 2 here, and there's 3 here in this little closet type thing there.
Looks like there's quite a few things in there.
There are miner's lights. There are lanterns, carbide lights, one lantern that you put kerosene in and stuck a rag in the spout, and you lit the rag to make the light in the mine. We called her Ma, Harold's mother. Found this picture frame in the attic when they moved to a house in 1941. They had to move because of Camp Crowder, and she found this picture frame. So she took a piece of a drapery and cut it to fit the frame, and then where the birds are, she has stuffed that with cotton so that it gives the birds some body. So that's the history of this picture.
What about the lantern there? Is it?
Oh, no, that's not. Well, the light belonged to Ma. Jean made the thing that it's hanging in, whatever you call it. And this is it's not too awfully old, but it is a corn dryer. You put your seed corn on these.
An ear on each?
An ear on each prong, and dried it to have your seed for the next year.
Oh, okay. Looks like there's another old picture frame over there. Is that?
That's another frame. I don't remember the history of that frame. Judy painted the picture that's in it because she thought it looked like Harold's old pickup.
Okay.
We used to make sorghum every fall. We gathered the cane. We had a box made, a vat to cook down the juice. We had people come in with their teams, and we have a machine that we poked that through, and the horse went around and around and squeezed that out, and then we made sorghum. Had lots of people come and visit and eat and help make sorghum. And a friend of ours, Joe Bridges, and his wife, Crafts. Joe had brought his to work at the sorghum mill, so when they got into crafts, he made this wagon and team and for us to keep as just a token of his appreciation of us letting him help with the sorting.
Right. And who got you the
Gene,
John Deere?
Gene and Cindy got us the, I said us, Harold, the John Deere lamp for Christmas one year.
And looks like we've got a whole bookshelf full of.
This is Harold's hobby. He collects old replicas of old tractors and engines. There's, as you can see, there are John Deere, there are Farmall, there are Fords. There's just all kinds of them here. And the engine, this is not the engine I started to tell about. This one up here, and I'll bring it down, is the engine I want to tell about. Casey's and Tony's grandfather, Flint, came from Iowa, bought a farm out north of Granby, and this was a pump, ran a pump. This in the big engine that this, of which this is a replica, ran the pump on the farm before electricity. They had electricity when they moved there, but when he bought it from the banker that used to be in Granby, they had used it for a summer home, and this was what they pumped their water with. So we have that down in the barn, but this is a replica. Harold bought two so that each of the boys could have one.
And they restored the original and showed it at shows and parades.
Yes, we did.
I may have to be giving one of them away.
This is a trophy we got. We decided we wanted pony and wagon, and we wanted to do something different. Harold was carrying mail, and we needed to have another hobby, as if we didn't have enough to do. So a friend of ours, Harold Berner, took us down to Anderson. We bought a wagon, 2 ponies, and we entered it in parade. And this was the first parade we entered. We got a trophy. That was back in 1974. You can't see this picture very well, but it's a picture of the Alexander Plow Works, which was a factory in Neosho that made the Alexander plow for farmers when they used the old walking plows. Okay? But in big letters, and it's an old cheese box that came from Harold's mother's house when she no longer kept house. I took all the things that nobody wanted and didn't think they'd ever want to give him any space. But I kept it all these years. And we aren't even going to go inside of it to see what kind of junk's in it. This is a basket that Jerry Doris, our son-in-law, made for us when he decided he wanted to make baskets one time. So he made this one for me, and I was just real proud of it. Grandmother Marion's old egg basket. She used this to gather her eggs and bring in every day. Aunt Nell had it, who is May Marion's, Harold's mother's sister. Harold's Aunt Nell gave it to me one time, and she says, "Don't ever tell my kids because they wouldn't like it." But I called Aunt Nell every day to check on her, and I was the only one around. She had no children to check on her. They all lived away. So she wanted me to have Grandma's egg basket. Okay. This is my baby bonnet that my grandmother Vance made for me when I was born. To look at that, you'd never know how far a person can go. But she made it out of handkerchiefs. It has old lace on it, and it was my baby bonnet. This is a purse and a hat for a doll that my daddy's sister had when she was a child, and I was never allowed to play with it till now that I have it hanging in my living room. These are Harold's shoes that he had when he was a child. I think he dragged his toes from the looks of things, but they had no strings, they had buttons to fasten them, and this is a button hook that you use to reach through and pull the buttons through to fasten the shoes. Tell you what you needed?